प्रकाशित हृदय में ईश्वर।
आहिष्मा सूनवे पिता
प्रकाशित हृदय में ईश्वर।
सखा सखी वरेण्यः सखा सखी वरेण्यः हे प्रभु मेरे परम सखा मेरे परम सखा। हे प्रभु मेरे परम सखा मेरे परम सखा। तुम ही बंधु हो तुम ही स्नेही तुम ही हो मात पिता। दुख में धीरज देने वाले कष्ट में सुध लेने वाले। दुख
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Together we chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verses 21 to 30.
आदित्यानामहं विष्णुः ज्योतिषां रविरंशुमान् मरीचिर्मरुतामस्मि नक्षत्राणामहं शशि वेदानां सामवेदोऽस्मि देवानामस्मि वासवः इन्द्रियाणां मनश्चास्मि भूतानामस्मि चेतना रुद्राणां शङ्करश्चास्मि वित्तेषो यक्षरक्षसां वसूनां पावकश्चास्मि मेरुः शिखरिणामहम् पुरोधसां च मुख्यं मां विद्धि पार्थ बृहस्पतिम् सेनानीनामहं स्कन्दः सरसामस्मि सागरः महर्षीणां भृगुरहम् गिरामस्म्येकमक्षरम् यज्ञानां जपयज्ञोऽस्मि स्थावराणां हिमालयः अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः उच्चैश्रवसमश्वानां विद्धि माममृतोद्भवम् ऐरावतं गजेन्द्राणां नराणां च नराधिपम् आयुधानामहं वज्रम् धेनूनामस्मि कामधुक् प्रजनश्चास्मि कन्दर्पः सर्पाणामस्मि वासुकिः अनन्तश्चास्मि नागानां वरुणो यादसामहम् पितॄणामर्यमा चास्मि यमः संयमतामहम् प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालः कलयतामहम् मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहम् वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणाम्
Uttara, my question is with reference to yesterday's class. Sorry, couldn't attend yesterday due to ill health. How are you today, Uttara? Are you okay? Where are you, Uttara? Are you feeling better? If you're saying anything, we can't hear you. Oh, a little better. Okay. All right. So, oops, this is not good. Okay, no problem. Only thing is now your question has gone up, so there is nothing to bring it down. Every person acts according to their vasanas. So then why do we, the whole world, condemn, punish philanderers who do the same instead of being compassionate towards them? Example, Tiger Woods, Bill Clinton, they have also looked for other options, haven't they? Every person acts according to their vasana. So why do we, meaning the whole world, condemn, punish philanderers who do the same instead of being compassionate towards them? Every being acts according to his vasana is what you have studied in the Vedanta class. So those who have also attended the Vedanta class will not condemn these people. But those who haven't attended the class, which means the whole world, will condemn them. So I don't know, until you are exposed to knowledge, until you have matured with the knowledge, you're going to condemn people for some reason or the other. However, what you're saying is not true. Everybody doesn't condemn them. Some of them look up to them and say, oh, wow, look at these guys. These guys are really living it up. So whether you condemn them or you appreciate them depends on your desires. It's got nothing to do with that person. There are some people who say, see what a nice life Tiger Woods is having. Really? You think your life is worse than his or his is better than yours? I don't know. So it's not true that the whole world condemns philanderers. Some of them appreciate them and wish to emulate them, but are probably too frightened or or incapable of emulating them. So the statement is not true per se. Then secondly, people who are either emulating them or appreciating them or condemning them are people who have not matured with the knowledge of Vedanta. So you're asking basically, if knowledge says this, why does ignorance do that? So that is the way that it is, right? If knowledge does X, ignorance will do Y. Obviously, what else will happen? Okay. Lisa, does that help you? Oh dear, again, something down. Why did... Okay, fine. Then second question. Usme kya rakha hai? Doesn't it imply ego besides immaturity? Because the person is implying that I can do it. I don't know what you're referring to, Uttara. Can you make some kind of explanation? Usme kya rakha hai? For those who don't know Hindi, what is there in that, as we Indians say? But in proper English, that does not matter. But otherwise, we translate it as what is there in that. So, usme kya rakha hai? Doesn't it imply ego? I don't know what you're referring to, so I can't answer this. Example of smoking in that reference. I don't know. I still can't connect. Does anybody else know? Because Uttara's having trouble speaking. Does anyone know what she's referring to?
We had spoken about if I have never smoked, then it's easy for me to say, that's bad. But I eat chocolate, so I don't know how that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
not judging
Thank
people.
You,
yeah.
So doesn't it imply ego besides immaturity? Yeah, immaturity and ego is the same thing. If you're a mature person, you never have ego. How can you be mature and egoistical? Only immature people can have an ego, right? What is ego? Ego is itself immaturity. So there's no difference between the two. So yes, I think, I don't know if you all were there, the rest of you were there yesterday, but the point was we can very easily, suppose a person is not a philanderer. We can very easily look at somebody and say, oh, he's a philanderer. Or the example we used yesterday, I am not a smoker. I have never smoked. And I can look at others. I can say, look at Shilpa, she smokes so much. Not that Shilpa smokes at all, but I can just look at her and make any comment about her smoking. But why am I taking the superior stance? Because I don't have that desire. So it makes no sense. The question is, can I control where I have a desire? No point talking about people controlling their desires. So that was the point we were making. It's so easy, for us to sit on a high chair and say, oh, this person does this and this person does that. So it's just our immaturity that makes us talk like that, because we can't control what our desires are, but we expect other people to control what their desires are. Just immature. Maturity directly proportional to development of intellect, correct. Inversely proportional to ego, correct. Yes, correct, Varsha. Okay, so where were we? We were discussing how the whole world is pervaded by the Lord to indicate that the Lord is everywhere. Okay, to indicate that the Lord is everywhere. when you say the Lord is everywhere, you say everything is God. Then you can see this bookshelf is God, that plant is God, everything is God. Shilpa is God, everything is God. When we start talking like this, we get the impression that Nama Rupa is God. Right? Suppose you look at a murti, the murti of Shiva, or of Rama, or Krishna, or the murti, or a cross, or a crescent, whatever it is in the world. Then you begin to think that particular Nama Rupa, that name and form is God. But that name and form is not God. There is an indestructible thing in that name and form, which is the Lord. So the essence of that thing is the Lord. Now he has to explain this to Arjuna. So how is he going to explain it? He's saying the essence of everything is the Lord, the best, the noblest, the greatest. That in it, which makes it itself, that is the Lord. That's how he's trying to explain it to him. And he's showing it in the best and the greatest so that we can be inspired by at least a few of these things to remember the Lord when we see those things. And he has used all these things which Arjuna is familiar with. He transacts with these things on a daily basis. So therefore, it will be very easy for him to remember the Lord. Nowadays, of course, our culture has changed. This book is 5,000 years old, maybe. So then maybe we are not so much in touch. Now, if I have to say, who is Bhrigu, Maharshi Bhrigu, maybe people don't know. So today we can replace it by saying, among physicists, I'm Einstein. You can replace it. I am among singers, I'm Lata Mangeshkar. You can replace it if you like. But the idea we must get. For Arjuna, he knew all these things. Like, suppose among actors, I am Shah Rukh Khan. If I say, you all understand what I mean. But 500 years later, they need an explanation. Who is Shah Rukh Khan now? So that's what's happening here. So is everybody clear as to the point that is being made over here? The rest is, of course, the stories in this whole portion. Okay, so let's go to verse 26. Ashwatha sarva vrukshanam devarshinam cha naradaha gandharvanam chitrarataha siddhanam kapilo munihi ashwatha sarva vrukshanam devarshinam cha naradaha gandharvanam chitrarataha siddhanam kapilo munihi. Ashwatha sarva vrukshanam. You know the Ashwatha tree, the people tree, the Ficus religiosa. Sarva vrukshanam. Amongst all the trees, I am the Ashwatha tree. Why has he chosen Ashwatha tree? He has chosen this also in the 15th chapter when we'll study about it more in detail at that time. But Ashwatha, have you all seen the Ashwatha tree? It's like a gigantic tree and it's got its roots coming down, so it sort of becomes really big. Like suppose you say among the animals, I am the elephant. So it's among the vruksha, among the trees, I am Ashwatha. Now, a very interesting etymology of this word Ashwatha. In olden times, when people used to travel, they used to travel often on their horses. So when they came to these massive Ashwatha trees, the roots of that Ashwatha tree sort of, what do I say, come down, right? They have hanging roots. So they used to tie their horses to all those overhanging roots of the Ashwatha tree. So Ashwatha, you are tied into that. The horses were Ashwa. The horses were stationed there. They were kept there. And so you could say that's why the tree was so named. Ashwatha was also non-shashwatha. Non-shashwatha, non-eternal. You can take it like that also. So there's a lot of ways you can go about it. So basically, in this context, of course, it's a massive tree. So it's sacred. And it has some common characteristics with Brahman, which is it is so big, right? So everybody is ashrita, is sheltered under that tree. It shelters everybody. It lives for a very long time. It is not a comes and goes. It's there. It's an eternal sort of tree. And then when you go to the imagine in olden times how it must be, right? For Arjuna, imagine he's traveling all over the place on his horse. He's really tired. He has to stop, gets off the horse. He sits under the Ashwatha tree. He ties his horse there. He immediately feels, what does he feel?
Comforted.
Comforted, rested, no? It's the same thing when you go to Brahman, you feel comforted, you feel rested. This mind which has been running all over the world, it's hot, it's heated up with all this agitation that it has created. And then it comes into the shade of Brahman. The same sukoon, the same relaxation, the same comfort. So Ashwatha, Sarva Vrukshanam, or Vruksha is in any way a place of comfort, right? Because for travelers in those times, that was where they rested under the trees. So it was anyway a place of comfort. But the Ashwatha was a massive shade of the Ashwatha. So really cooling, really comforting. So he is drawing out that characteristic. Devarshinam Chanarada. So amongst the Devarshi, earlier were the Saptarishis. Okay, they are from the terrestrial world. Now this is Devarshi, from the gods. So who is the best Rishi among the gods? Narada. So what is the biggest quality of Narad? That he is a mischievous saint. He's always up to some hanky-panky somewhere. So what does that imply? It implies the joy of life that comes out of an understanding of life. So you become naughty, you become mischievous, you become childlike, just like how Krishna was, because you understood the facts of life. Gandharvanam Chitrarataha. So who are the Gandharvas? The Gandharvas were those into music and dance. So amongst them, they were the artists. They were the artists of the gods. So among them, he says, and Chitraratha. Chitraratha was their, what should I say? Was their king, their lord. He was the head of all the artists. So we could say amongst British actors and Sir Laurence Olivier, you can say like that. You can change it for, actually even that is out now. So we should say among British actors, I am, what is his name? Cumber, Benedict Cumber, somebody or the other. What is his name? Or Hugh Grant, whoever is your choice.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
That one. So whoever you want, you can say amongst American actors. Who's your favorite American actor? Whatever.
Donald,
None of you all have
Donald, Donald Trump.
Huh?
Donald Trump.
Trump. Okay, all right. All right, chalo, let's change it to among Hollywood actors. Though actually he was part of an Hollywood film also. So many Uttara, okay. Chalo, Brad Pitt. Let's take Brad Pitt. Whoever you want. That's all he's trying to say. Gandharvanam Chitra Rataha. When we say it like that, sounds like very complicated. Something is going on. So all the time, see what this verse is trying to tell you. Ashwatha Sarva Vrukshanam. For Arjuna, already his mind is calm. Devarshi Nam Naradaha. So that's the mischievous, the joy of life. Gandharvanam Chitrarathaha. Among the musicians, the artists. So the entertainment of life. Siddhanam Kapilo Munihi. Among the Siddhas, I am Sage Kapila. Sage Kapila was supposed to be the creator of Sankhya philosophy. So the other thing he gives for happiness in this world is philosophy. I don't know which of these you're going to agree with. What is the greatest happiness eventually? Is the study of philosophy. At least for us, maybe we can agree with that. I don't know. Do you all agree? Agree? Greatest happiness is the study of philosophy. Most people say, oh, philosophy, oh, boring. But at least for us, I think, at least I hope that you find that also a definite source or the base of all our enjoyment. The fact of life, the moment you get the facts of life, how can life not be enjoyable? How is that even possible? Way back in our very ancient culture that nobody even can remember, way back in the Vedic period, there was the appreciation or the worship of something called rita. I'm sure you'll have studied that before, right? And you're familiar with the concept of rita? Anyone's not familiar with the concept of rita?
Not familiar, Jankisi.
Sorry, Naim, I didn't catch what you said.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, okay. So, all right, for rita in the Vedic concept, okay, that is like way in the hoary past. Nobody even knows how old Vedic concepts are. Like, I don't know, 10,000 years, God alone knows when. Now, this concept was the concept of worship, the concept of rita. Rita, translated into English, unfortunately, there's no exact equivalence, but you can sort of put these words and get a meaning of what rita is. Rita means order. Rita means truth. Rita means system. So the Hindi word, or even the Sanskrit word ritu, has come from that word rita. That means the order, the system, the truth, the facts, whatever you want to call it. And these facts of life, this order of life, is a constantly repetitive order. It goes on like the seasons, they go on. They will come, they will go, they will come, they will go. This is the order of life. It is the order of life that we will be born, we will live, we will die. It is the order of life that summer and winter will go on. It's the order of life. This is the natural rhythm. There are some facts in life. And based on these facts are derived the two, historically at least, latter concepts, which are the concepts of dharma and karma. So when you get your facts right, then you have dharma. Dharma means you've got the right mental attitudes, the right values, the right mindset, whatever word you want to use. And that converts then into the the karma, the actions that you perform, the rituals that you perform. Like rituals doesn't have to mean that you go and, do some, go do the ghanta in the mandir or something. The rituals of your life, the actions of your life, how you get up every morning and study. This is a ritual. In fact, the word ritual comes from the Latin word ritus, which is so close to ritu, isn't it? Ruta. A Western word, asa, also comes from the same Proto-Indo-Iranian word, which is ritas, H-R-I-T-A-S, ritas, meaning truth. That's why, Zoroastrians are very much into tell the truth. But it's not about telling the truth. It is about living a life of truth. Living a life of truth means living according to the natural order, the natural facts, the natural laws of life. So once you get to those and you're able to live in accordance with those facts, can you imagine what your life will turn out to be? You understood what it is and you are able to execute it. Then that's where the whole beauty, the happiness, the joy of life starts unfolding. So Ruta means the order, the truth. And the god of Ruta was supposed to be Varuna, and he was a very strict god. You can't appeal to Varuna, okay? You can't go to him and say, oh God, please do this or please do that. You have to follow his order. There's no court of appeal with him. Unlike our later gods where you can go to God, oh please God, give me this, give me that. You can't go to Varuna and say that. Varuna means you follow Rita or you bear the consequences. Interesting, no? Very, very interesting. The whole way of worship was so different at that time. Worship was considered the following of that natural order. Even the Bible has something of that sort, where it says, there is a time for everything. No, what is that quote? Does anyone know the Bible? We don't have any Christians in the class. Is anyone familiar with that? About there's a time for everything? A time to sow, a time to harvest, a time to... Remember that? Nobody remembers? Where is my Bharat? Bharat, you also don't remember?
No, haven't heard this.
Oh, okay. Just look it up. It's a quote from the Bible where it talks about there is a time for everything.
I'll search.
So, moral of this long... Okay, sorry.
A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace.
This is from what? Romans? Where is it from?
I know. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. To everything there is a season. And
yes, for everything there is a season. So there are 3 verses on this, on how, yes. 8 verses, okay. On how there's a time for everything. There's the same natural order. So what is the moral of the story? Naim, you're clear about Ruta. Sorry, I get quite excited with this concept of Ruta. But
Quite clear, thank you.
Yeah, the natural order or the truth. This is the sort of closest English equivalents of this. And from it derived dharma and karma. So basically this whole verse tells us, what did this whole verse tell us? What happened after the whole verse? Nobody knows what it told us.
Be patient and keep doing your work.
No, Manoj. It told us about what? One word. Here's the essence of everything is there in every verse. Mahesh has put the whole quote here for if you all want to read it. There's a season for everything. There's time and season for everything. So tough for us to get that, no? Our whole concept is, I must get it now. That's our whole concept. We just don't get it that there's a time and a season. And there is a right way, a wrong way. So much for us to learn. So what is the whole point? All 4 points lead us to the same point, which is all lost.
Lord is pervading in the best and the worst.
What happened to you all? Nobody. Bad teacher. Okay, let's start again. Ashwatha Sarva Vrukshanam. I am the Ashwatha tree among all the trees. All trees give us
Oxygen.
Comfort.
Yeah, you're not listening.
Shelter.
Give us what?
Shelter.
Shelter, rest, comfort. And so Brahman also gives us that. But he's the Ashwatha. That means he's that gigantic tree where all beings gain shelter, rest, comfort. So the whole theme of this verse, please understand. Devarshinam Chanaradaha. Among all the sages of the gods, not our earthly sages, of the gods, I am Narada. So what is the one characteristic about Narada that you know of?
Mischievous.
Mischievous. So when does mischievousness come?
When you understand the facts of life.
You're full of the joy of life. When you're mischievous, otherwise you're sitting down looking so like that. So dull and depressing everything is. But when you are filled, over brimming with the joy of life, you start having fun with things. Even philosophy, sometimes he's a professor sitting like, so something very serious is happening, you better not smile. No, but if you understood it, then it should be cause to smile. Have fun with it. Gandharvanam cha Chitra Rathaha. Among the Gandharvas and Chitra Ratha. What is this? What is Gandharvas? What are the Gandharvas?
The artists.
The artists, the musicians, the dancers. So, and the best. So what does music and dance and all give you? Enjoy, pleasure. Correct. Siddhanam Kapilo Munihi. Among the Siddhas, I am Kapila. Among the perfected ones, I am Kapila. Kapila was the founder of Sankhya Yoga. What does Sankhya Yoga give you?
Knowledge.
Huh?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. What does knowledge give you?
Happiness.
Happiness. So what is the one common characteristic amongst all these things?
Happiness.
Happiness. Is it clear? He is the essence of happiness. Where are you getting your happiness from? You get it from comfort. You know when you're rested, you're comfortable, like under the tree. Imagine, no, if you live in a hot country, okay? Imagine Arjuna he used to go from one end of the country to the other end of the country, right? Now he's riding hard. And he comes and he's so exhausted and he comes to a tree, the Ashwatha tree, his horse is resting, he is resting. Can you imagine what he's going through? How wonderful that must seem to him. It's like you have gone out in the hot sun, come back home and switch the AC on. You went shopping in the market, you went shopping to Santa Cruz market or to Skalva Devi, and you were so hot and you came home and you said, oh my God, I need the AC, I need the AC. And you put on the AC and how you felt, Aram. Like that he felt under the Ashwatha tree. Then Narada, the mischief, the joy. Then Chitrarathaha, expressing music, the joy of music, the pleasure of music. And finally, the pleasure of poetry. Of philosophy. Most people think philosophy is very boring. Do you all think philosophy is very boring? No,
At times. At times. At times.
Yeah, is it? Oh dear, how sad is that? Oh, everybody feels it's boring.
I think in the way it's taught in some universities, Jankishi, where they focus on dates and history and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Academic, I guess.
Yeah, academic philosophy kills it, no? But don't say that in front of Mahesh, okay? He will not tolerate anyone saying that. But if you don't get the essence of it, if you don't get the facts, not the facts as in who said what and who commented what, but the facts of life itself, then what was the whole point of studying that philosophy? See. Yes, you can say that, Varsha. Yes, Varsha, it is the highest giver of pleasure to the body, mind, intellect. In fact, the closer you go to the self, the more pleasure unfolds. So, Sankhya philosophy, for those who are interested, is more or less the same as Vedanta, except, in fact, Vedanta was supposed to be the complete flowering of philosophy. And all the other philosophies sort of help us understand Vedanta, but they somehow stop short a little of at least Advaita Vedanta. So where does Sankhya stop short? Vedanta is with Sankhya as far as the concept of Prakriti and Purusha is concerned, which you have studied. There is the self, there is matter, that's Prakriti and Purusha. In the other traditions, they call it Shiva and Parvati, or they call it Prakriti and Purusha, whatever Sankhya calls it, Prakriti and Purusha. But the difference between Advaita Vedanta and Sankhya is, or at least the step that Sankhya doesn't take is, it maintains Purusha and Prakriti eternally separate. But Advaita Vedanta says there is only one. That's why it's called Advaita. There is no division between Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti is itself made of Purusha. There is only God. There is nothing else. What the Sufis call. Naeem, what do the Sufis call it? Say about it. Anal Haq. Yes, Anal Haq. So these philosophies, same as Vedanta, whether it's Taoism or Sufism or Vedanta, they take the stance of the oneness of God with everything. But Sankhya does everything the same as Vedanta, except it keeps Prakriti and Purusha eternally apart. Not really necessary for us, but if you wish to know, that's what it is. Verse 27. Uchchaishravassamashvanam Vidhi mamamrutodbhavam Airavatam gajendranam Naranam cha naradhipam Uchchaishravassamashvanam Vidhi mamamrutodbhavam Airavatam gajendranam Naranam cha naradhipam. Okay, now here's another very interesting verse. On the face of it, it's quite simple. Uchchaishravas ashwanam. Uchchaishravas is the winged horse. Supposed to be the best among the ashwas. Ashwa are the horses. Ashwa is the Sanskrit word for horse. So I'm amongst the horses and Uchchaishravas. Amruta Udbhavam, which is from the Amrutaha Udbhavam, from the Amrut which has come. Airavatam Gajendrana. Among the Gajendra, among the Gajaha, among the elephants, I am Airavata. Airavata is the white elephant. And Naranam Naradhipam. Among the Naraha, among the men, I am Naradhipam. Naradhipam is the king. So I am the king among men. So what do we have? Among horses, we have Uchchaishravas. Among horses, Airavatam. And among men, the king. So, like in all other things, the best, the noblest, the greatest. Now, what is important for us in this verse is Amrutodbhavam. This is what is the interesting part of this verse. What is Amrutodbhavam? That means born from Amrita. Amrita is nectar. Mruta is death, mortality. Amruta is immortality. So I guess you know what I'm referring to over here. There was a big compromise at one point between the gods and the demons. And the gods and the demons both wanted Amrita, immortality. So they decided to do Sagar Manthan. The great Manthan is, what is the English word for churning? The churning of the ocean. So they put aside their differences and decided that we both want Amrita and we are going to churn the ocean. So how do you churn an ocean? It took this massive snake called Vasuki. And Vasuki was supposed to be the rope to churn. And the big mountain was there. Manthara mountain was there. What do you call it? That rod with which you churn. So the demons took one side and the gods took one side. And they started churning the ocean. Why are they churning the ocean? Because they want Amrita. And then when they start churning, all the waves are getting agitated. As they churn the ocean, trying to take the Amrit out of it, take the nectar out of it. As they churned and churned and churned and churned, all the poison started coming out. Halahal poison. And they didn't know what to do with that poison. So they went running to Shiva and they said, save us, save us. All the poison is suffocating us. We can't bear it. And Shiva said, no problem. And he went there and he swallowed all that horrible halahal poison. And his wife Parvati, she looked at him and said, what on earth are you doing? And she held his throat so that that poison won't go down. And that is how he got his name Neelakantha, because that poison stayed here and turned his whole throat blue. And then the demons and the gods started churning and churning. And then from that churning, many, many wonderful things started coming out. Uchchaishravas came, the best of the horses. Airavatam came, the best of the elephants, and Indra took him to become his vehicle. All sorts of wonderful things came. Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, came out of this churning of the ocean. So many wonderful things came. And then finally, after all this journey of wonderful things that came, finally came the Amrit. And when the Amrit came, again, these guys were fighting over it. Anyway, so then finally Vishnu had to come in the form of Mohini and rescue the Amrit from the demons and give it to the gods. This is the story. Now, this story has a deep philosophical, allegorical significance. It's an allegory. What is the allegory? That when we are in search of Amrit, we are in search of that immortality, of realization. We start churning the great ocean, which is our great ocean, our own mind. So we churn this mind. And what do we use to churn it? We use the ego to churn it. What do you think about? You think about all your past experiences. All of them put together are your ego. And the snake represents the ego. So you churn this ocean with your knowledge, your experiences. You start thinking about it. You start thinking and thinking and thinking. And with the knowledge, the mountain represents knowledge. You start thinking the ego and the knowledge. The churning is going on of the ocean. And as you start thinking about it, as you start treading the spiritual path, what happens? The first thing that happens is you feel terrible. The poison starts coming out. You understand, I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You start getting up, it's poison. You understand you need to exercise every day. You try to do exercise, it's poison, it's horrible. But all these horrible things that you experience at the beginning of your spiritual path, you should not let them affect either your head or your heart. Meaning either your thinking or your inspiration, your feeling for it. That's why it is stopped in the middle. Doesn't allow it to interfere with either the heart or the head. And then if you keep churning, then suddenly the picture changes. And all these wonderful things start coming. Uchchai Shravas comes. And Airavatam. And Lakshmi. And Kaustupa. The gem. So many wonderful things start coming out of it. But if you're a wise spiritual sadhak, you don't get carried away by anything and you continue the churning until you get to Amrit. You will not leave it until you come to Amrit. So it sort of explains the spiritual path. Though the story sounds funny, it's just explaining the spiritual path. So Uchchai Shravas, Airavatam are all the peace, the prosperity, the wonderful things that start happening to us after a little time on the spiritual path. Yes, Varsha, isn't it a wow thing? I mean, the stories are really beautiful if we get to understand them. So all the huge benefits of spiritual life will start. Some people will get carried away. They'll say, oh, Lakshmi has come, wonderful, let us take Lakshmi. Some people will say, oh, the Kaustubha jewel has come, let me take that. But be warned, don't stop your path. Continue, continue, continue. Things will get better and better as you evolve. But don't stop your path. Don't give up until you come to that Amrita.
Jantiji,
Yeah.
are there any books that talk about such allegorical meanings? Because one book I read was by Swamiji, which was the Hindu rituals. And that book I've read. And are there any other such resources where
There is one book by Swami Chinmayananda also, which I am familiar with. But once you get the hang of it, all the stories will become clear to you. So basically, you just have to get the hang of these things, how they're communicating. So, for instance, when you read an Aesop's fable, you begin to understand what these stories are telling. So it's not more reading that we require, but more contemplation that we require. So then slowly, as you understand the knowledge, you will hear a story and you will understand what that story means. You'll just understand it automatically. Because all these stories are doing nothing but explaining Vedanta. Different little aspects, even fairy stories. The story about, take anyone. You remember the story about the princess And the pea, you remember that story? There was a princess, and she knocked on a castle door one night, and that castle door was opened by the queen. And the queen said, "What is it?" And then the princess said, she's all in rags and all. She says, "I'm lost. I'm away from my palace. I'm lost. I'm a princess. I'm lost. I can't go back. It's late at night and I'm frightened. Please give me some place to stay." So the queen said, "Okay, fine. You can come in." But she was very curious. Is this girl really a princess? So what she did was, she had a bed. She put a pea in that bed, and then she covered it with, I don't remember the number, some like 40 mattresses of feather, and then another 50 mattresses of something else, of down, of the most rich down, and gave her the best, like the best everything, and so many mattresses. And then she asked her in the morning, "Did you sleep properly?" And the princess said, the so-called princess said, "No, I couldn't sleep at all. I was so uncomfortable. There was something poking." And then the queen was very happy. And the prince and this princess got married, and they lived happily ever after. So what do you think the story tells us? Naeem?
No idea.
Okay. Anybody
You're
else? What is the story
you-
telling us?
More evolved you are, then even smaller, small things will be challenging. More
Yes, you can.
subtle things are which will bother you. Yeah, subtler things will bother.
The more you have anything, the more you can understand its lack. So whether it is money, suppose you're extremely, suppose you're used to this kind of luxury, even the least bit of thing will seem to you like so uncomfortable. Versus if you've been used to the slum, nothing seems uncomfortable. Similarly, when you evolve, even a negative thought will seem very uncomfortable to you. But if you have not yet evolved, then even if you hit somebody, you don't feel anything much. He deserves it. Will discern easily. Yes, if you're used to that, if you've got plenty of that, then your discernment in that area will grow. So these stories start becoming clear, right? As you go on to understand, oh, what does this thing mean? And you think about it and you get the meaning. Of course, Indian Puranas, there's no end to the stories, and the Itihasas and the Puranas. Like you hear, Dasharatha had 3 wives. One was the mother of Rama. One was Kaikai, who created all this mess. One was Sumitra. So Dasharatha had 3 wives. The moment you hear Dasharatha had 3 wives, what does it mean?
3 gunas.
3 gunas. Yeah, see? Getting the hang of it. So as you start getting it, then you see it everywhere. The whole thing about Ganesh Visarjan. What a beautiful idea. What a mess they create out of it. But if you think about it, what are you doing Ganesh Visarjan for? What is it representing? And then you begin to see how they keep communicating with us. Whether it is the statues, whether it is the festival, whether it is the stories, all telling us the truth. So Naeem, in answer to your question, the one more book is which you could read is probably Swami Chinmayananda's book of Symbolism. But instead of reading more and more books on how this symbolism is taught, better that you concentrate on
Reflecting.
on morning study. And then these stories will speak to you themselves. They were meant to tell us. They will speak to us. Okay, so clear, verse 27 is good.
Jankiji, one question.
Yeah, Bharat.
So this fighting between gods and demons represents the negative tendencies which sabotage the path, right? Okay.
Yeah. But the demons in us are our demons, the negative tendencies, and the gods in are the good tendencies in us. So in your spiritual path, you first begin by these two working together so that you start churning the ocean, right? That's how you're going to start reflecting about it. You don't know at any stage which is good and which is bad, you have no idea. And as you start thinking about it, then all the trouble starts. So many people believe their negative tendencies to be good. If they spend too much, they think that's a good thing they did. If they insult somebody, they're rude, they fight, they think it's a good thing. They say they behave in an extremely egoistical manner. They actually think it's good. They don't think it's bad. These are your good qualities and your bad qualities cooperating with each other. But when you start thinking about it, halahal. Halahal is that horrible poison. It start coming out. Be warned. See, many people leave the spiritual path because of that halal coming up. Too much trouble. So they leave. But all of us have been through the halal, been through a bad time, and then we come to the good time. And then we leave because of the good time. Who is that who will keep on with it till that Amrita is reached? He is the real spiritual sadhak. Okay, so that's it for today. Hari Om. I hope you all know that we are starting the Bhagavad Gita in 20 sessions. Like we did VFC course, the second course now is on Bhagavad Gita in 20 sessions. And we'll start from 1st July. Hari Om.
Thank you, Janki.
Pleasant,
Thank you, Janki ji. Hari Om.
pleasant pleasure, madam.
Hari Om. Hari
Have a
Om.
nice
Thank you,
day.
Janki ji.
Hari Om.